Hello, welcome back to Slaying the Craft, the show where we go inside the mind of a thriller writer. I am Sabrina Thatcher, your host. I'm an author, a book coach, a podcaster, but most of all, a fanatic of the genre. I'm so excited to introduce my guest today, Marcy McCreary. After graduating from George Washington University with a BA in American Literature and Political Science, hey girl, she pursued a career in the marketing field, holding executive positions in marketing communications and sales at various magazine publishing companies and content marketing agencies. She is married. She lives in Massachusetts with her husband, Lou. And she has two daughters and two stepdaughters who live in four different cities across the US. She also writes like this great series, the Detective Susan Ford series with her father, Will. And I see some of them here. We're going to talk about that a little bit. So welcome, Marcy.
It's great to be here. Thank you, Sabrina, for inviting me onto your podcast.
I'm so excited to see you and to talk with you. So tell me a little bit about the Susan Ford series.
Okay, so these go back in time a little bit. So the inspiration for the idea, I think it was around 2017. I was reading a newspaper article in the Boston Globe. And it was about a woman named Flora Stevens who had disappeared from a Catskills resort hotel in the mid 70s. And I spent my summers around that area. My father was the activities director at one of those storied hotels. You know, if anybody's watched Dirty
So
Dancing,
you are baby,
I am
right?
baby. Don't put baby in the corner. So we watched the marvelous Mrs. Maisel, right? Dirty
Yes.
Dancing. You get a sense for what that area was all about. My dad worked there, so I knew about that missing woman. So what happened was skeletal remains were found on the side of the road, and they assumed it was this missing woman. And this is 30 years later, and the detective, for some reason, put her social security number in the system, which obviously wasn't there in the mid 70s, and got a ping at an Alzheimer's facility in Lowell, Massachusetts. So the detectives actually drove out there, and they determined that yes, this was Flora Stevens. She'd been missing for 30 years. No one knew what happened to her. And they pretty much, sort of like, they figured out who she was, and that was the end of it. But it wasn't the end of it for me. I was just so curious. So I actually called the Monticello Police Department and I asked, like, so are you going to figure out what happened to her in those 30 years? I mean, maybe something bad happened. Maybe she
Yeah.
was kidnapped.
Was she
And they were like,
yeah, how'd she disappear? What happened?
they don't care. I mean, maybe they did care, but they don't have the resources to really look into it. And I asked them about what about the skeletal remains on the side of the road, and it turned out that was Ulster County, not Sullivan County, so it wasn't in their jurisdiction. But after reading that story and having a personal connection with that area, I could not get that story out of my head. And I think as a writer, when that something gets lodged like that, where your imagination runs wild, you're constantly thinking about it, that's a message. That's a
Yes.
message. And
Yes.
so I thought to myself, I think it would be kind of fun that if I can piece together what happened to this woman. Now, I changed her name to Trudy Solomon, the disappearance of Trudy Solomon. And I thought, what would be sort of an interesting. So then once I had the idea, I shelved that because I really think when I approach a story, I approach it with character. It just so happened that with this one, I approached it with idea, but not with.
Hmm.
And I thought, sort of, what would make this fun and interesting? And I thought about my father and his role at the hotels. And that sort of spurred the idea of the fact that it was a woman detective who found Trudy Solomon, right?
Uh-huh.
But it was her father's case 30 years ago, his white whale, the thing that he never was able to solve.
Hmm.
But wouldn't it be kind of cool if, she decides that she is going to figure out what happened to Trudy Solomon because the father still believes that something nefarious happened to her.
Right.
So she says, yeah, let's see if I can get the case reopened. And he comes in as sort of a consultant on this case. And so it begins. And so I just sat down with the idea of the true story of finding a woman 30 years later at an Alzheimer's facility. She obviously couldn't tell them what
She can't
happened
say
to
what
her,
happened.
right?
Yeah.
Backtrack it and sort of give this the the inciting incident, even though it happened 30 years ago, to start the investigation.
Yeah. That sounds so interesting. And I think that that idea is fascinating. First of all, everything that we see in fiction, people are always like, "Oh, it's so wild," whatever. It's, but the truth is like real life is actually weirder. It just is weirder. And so I love that you drew from that. And this idea, you and I kind of chatted about this a little bit, and we'll probably get a lot more into Alzheimer's as we're going on. But that idea of I love that you took an actual real case, because I do see like this comes up a lot in as a plot device. But I think that like this is a real thing. Like this really happened where somebody disappeared and can't explain what happened. Like that's so bananas that that's a real thing.
Yeah,
My gosh.
she was a waitress at the Concord Hotel. In 1975, I probably shouldn't give this away. I think when she went missing, 75 or 77, I was a teenager. I was
Yeah.
like 16, 17 years old. So I knew the story. I didn't pay attention to it. I just sort of heard about it, like, but
Right.
it didn't resonate with me at the time. I probably thought about it for the 5 minutes that I heard about it, and then it went out
You're
of
like,
my
oh man, that's crazy.
creepy. But then, like, 30 years later, to see the story come back in this way obviously resonated with me.
Yeah, most definitely. So Susan is your protagonist. Tell me about where she came from and why is this her series?
So, I was looking for a smart detective. I really wanted and I wanted her sort of like her issues, her struggles, her challenges to be tied up into her family.
Mhm.
So, not a personal, so much a personal trauma. It's not really, I mean, having a dysfunctional family, I don't know if that's traumatic. I mean, but I think it's relatable. I think it's
It's definitely
universal.
relatable.
I mean, it's a
And
funny thing.
traumatic, but
My family's not dysfunctional, but I have a wacky family. So maybe it's dysfunctional in a different way.
yeah.
Yeah, I think everybody can relate to sort of the shifting alliances within a family where you might be good with a sister in one year, and then something happens, and now it's mom and you against your sister, and so
Yeah.
that's what I foresaw with this is sort of shifting family alliances that would sort of drive her character arc. So I really just wanted a smart older police detective, because I don't see that a lot in fiction. So I
Yeah.
thought that, someone, she's a little younger than I am,
Mhm.
but not by that much. And so that's where she came from. She came from just, I really wanted her to feel relatable. And so she's not overly traumatized, but she did have an alcoholic mother, a workaholic father, and those things did, you know, form her character.
Right. Right. So, when you were this is a little more tactile, but when you were forming her character, did you do like character worksheets before you started writing? Did you kind of discover her as you were writing? Did you write a little bit and then do a character worksheet? Like where's that development for you?
There is no worksheet.
Okay, great.
There is no worksheet. I am the purest of pantsers. Okay, so
Okay.
I had the idea, and I formed the character in my mind, the father, daughter, and the mother.
Mhm.
But I do develop them as I go. I just sit down and write. If I had to do character development and outlines, I don't think I'd ever sit down to write.
Yeah.
I really just like to go. Like that's even my personality. I just want to go, see where
Mhm.
it takes me, see if it makes sense, see if it works. I generally know if I'm on the right track in about 10,000 words.
Yeah.
If it isn't working, I definitely feel it. And if I can't, create this character and build this character over that number of pages, I'm definitely not feeling her. But I
Yeah.
felt her from the get go. I was able to get into her head, and Will's head, and Vera's head, which is her
Mhm.
mother, from the beginning. So I really fell into this novel and started writing really quickly. As far as the plot goes, I'm a pantser, so
It
I
just happens.
always who done it. Like I have a sense of what the reveals might be, and also the midpoint, because what I love about what I love about novels that I read is that somewhere around the middle of the book just does a real quick turn in a different direction. It takes you into a different world. Something really usually momentous happens, and I like that. I like that
Mhm.
beat. So I also sort of have sort of what's going to happen at that midpoint, like how is the story going to shift and take the reader in a different direction. So that
Right.
those things are softly in my mind. I also think because I have always read a lot of mystery, thriller, suspense from the time that I was a kid, I think to some extent I innately know those beats. I innately know
Yep.
sort of what works for a
It's so
reader.
crazy. For some people, that is it's just it's a feeling, and I think that, for some people, it's definitely a thing we can learn it. We can learn it, and we should learn it, but there is just, like, an instinct that kind of happens, and that's how I feel when I'm doing it, 'cause I'm like, "Oh, I just feel like there needs to be something here."
Yeah,
It's
and if
just a feeling.
it's not in the first draft, the other thing I do is at the end, I do a reverse outline. So
Okay.
I then do a real outline, but I've already written the entire story. But that allows me to fill in with interiority, subtext, red herrings, clues. It makes me understand where there's plot holes, what doesn't make sense. So that's sort of a very big picture second draft.
Mhm.
And then I'll keep getting, kind of smaller and smaller, just to kind of make sure that the story makes sense along the way. So it's not like
Right.
I do the first draft, oh, I did it. Oh, intuition. Like, oh, I got those beats.
I
I
don't
know
know who's doing that other than Stephen King, so
it isn't that crazy first draft. I mean, it works in the big picture kind of way, but it definitely needs finessing. It needs work. It always
Yeah.
needs interiority. That's probably my weakest part of the craft, but I can definitely go back and sort of fill that in. That's sort of where my husband came in. I know we'll get to his story
Yeah.
in a bit, but that was always his. When he would read my work, he'd be like, "But what is she thinking? Like, is she really So he would really hammer that
Yeah.
home, especially when he was still able to edit and sort of critique. I shouldn't say edit, but critique my work. He was able to do so with the disappearance of Trudy Solomon, and in a way
Yeah.
he couldn't with the
With the
Murder
other
Mystery,
ones. Yeah.
and he couldn't at all with the Summer of Love and Death. So, but I think that there is an intuitive sensibility to the way I write, but I certainly understand why people outline. I think it feels like a safety net that I do
Mhm.
not have.
Yeah.
But I don't want. I don't want. I'm perfectly fine without it.
I find it so interesting because I've been playing with the outlining versus pantsing kind of thing, and I feel like I have more fun pantsing, but I feel like have better thought about, I feel like it's supposed to be more efficient with outlining. It's like, I mean, everyone has their own style, right? And so it takes a couple of books of writing to find what works the best for you. If you're like, okay, like this one outline was like pulling teeth, this one pantsing feels much better, but then I have to do all this work on the back end, right? Like that's the whole point, is that you're continuing to learn what your process is, and you're
Yeah, I mean, as I'm writing the book I'm writing now, I remember when I started, I said, you know what? Maybe I should try to outline. Like, maybe it'll make it easier. Like, I should just try it. Now that I've written books as a pantser, maybe I can outline. Like,
yeah.
maybe I have a better idea. I think I sat down to do it. I stared at a page for like a half an hour, and I was like, no, this doesn't work.
No,
Let me sit down and
no.
start writing.
It's so funny. I also, JT Ellison, in her newsletter, she also kind of live uh blogged about writing one of her last books, and it was really fascinating because she tried to outline, and she did, and then she started writing and she was like, this is terrible, this is the worst, I can't do this. So
Well,
I mean, it just genuinely,
um,
and some people are like, I can't live without an outline. It's
I'd rather
amazing
get
how
it
people's
wrong as
brains
I'm
work.
going. Yeah, I'd rather get it wrong as I'm going along than write an entire outline and then realize the whole thing isn't working when I sit down to write. Again, that's just me. I
Yeah.
mean, that's just the thing. Ask 100 writers what their process is, you'll get 100 different answers. And
Yep.
that's why when people ask for advice about writing, I just have one piece of advice:
Okay.
sit down and write. It's it.
That's
I
it.
mean, because you can always fix it. You can always go back to it. You can always determine, okay, I'm not good as a pantser, I'll outline. But if you don't sit and start writing, whether that's an outline or a book, but I would
Hmm.
say try to write the book just to
Yeah,
see how it goes. That's my piece of advice. I don't give, I don't think that the way that I work can work for the person that I'm necessarily talking to. So I just
yep.
like sit your butt in a chair and just start writing.
That's it. That's it. That's where the work happens.
My advice.
Um, okay, so let's talk a little bit about Lou's book. So we chatted. He's right here, like this 13th step. And do you want to talk about who Lou is and why we're talking about his book today?
So, my husband, Lou McCreary, he is also an author. He writes both literary fiction and crime fiction and short stories. And he had a fairly successful book a long time ago called The Minus Man. And it was made into a movie starring, before they were famous, Owen Wilson, Janine Garofalo, Sheryl Crow was in it, Brian.
Wow.
It was a hell of a cast. Mercedes Rule, um, um, Dwight Yoakam. It was this
Okay.
wild cast, and we went out for the filming of it. It's become somewhat of a cult classic. You can
Yeah, I
find it
feel like I've
on,
heard that name. I feel like I've heard that title. Like
well,
it's not triggering of remembering it, but I feel like the title I've heard.
find it on Stars, and you can find it on Amazon. You can
Okay.
rent it or buy it on Amazon.
Okay.
So it still exists, and it kind of like. But after that, he got a real job as a magazine. He had two children, and he sort of had to sort of step away from writing. That's not to say he didn't come home like that. He didn't work write on the weekends. He wrote short stories. He wrote novels that he put in the drawer. And then a few years ago, he started writing a novel called The 13th Step. And just as he was finishing it, when he needed to be editing it, he was having a really hard time editing. He would come down from a day of writing, and I'd say, "So how's it going? Whatever." He goes, "I'm tweaking here and there," but I would read it. It was the same novel. He hadn't really done what his agent had asked him to do,
Hmm.
and he was getting frustrated, but it wasn't for another year until he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, which explained that. So just so people understand, like sometimes the first symptoms of Alzheimer's are not necessarily memory loss,
Not
not in the way
not
you
always
think,
memory.
right. It's not. It is problem solving, troubleshooting, technology, financial literacy.
Mhm.
Those things seem to have disappeared first, but it's so subtle. You kind of go, well, he's not
Oh,
listening.
well, yeah, like maybe they're just oh, it's just like they're just getting like there's
A little
forgetting. Like
older, but it
yeah.
doesn't. It's so easy to dismiss it when you're close to it, especially when you're far from it.
Mhm.
And for a year, I was a little thrown by it, but I didn't. Dementia didn't jump into my head as
Right.
a problem. I thought it was a hearing issue. Hearing issue. Yeah, okay. So when he was diagnosed, it kind of all the puzzle pieces started to fill in. And so things started to make sense.
Right.
Why he got lost going to a hair appointment. All these things started to make sense. And so what happened was there was no way that he can finish this novel on his own. I mean, he couldn't do it anymore. So I took all the notes, all the critique notes that he had received over the last year, either from agents or from editors. I remember there was an editor I went to, and she read it. She thought it was great, but she said, it needs a developmental edit. You just,
Yeah.
you know. So I hired a ghost editor. His name was John Didakis, and he didn't touch a single word in this novel. What he did was he edited it. He took out a few of characters, some of the meandering that Lou tends to do, and he just got it really focused so that it propulses really well from the
Yeah.
start. And we did a Kickstarter campaign so that I was able to fund an audiobook, and then I got it up on Amazon. So I self-published his book.
Yeah.
So it's available on Amazon as an ebook, paperback, and audiobook. And I use this book to actually fundraise. So let's say in September when it's World Alzheimer's Day, or it's Alzheimer's Awareness Month and Brain Awareness Month, or over the holidays, or
Mhm.
for whatever purpose makes sense, I will actually use this book to fundraise, and all of the proceeds from the royalty go right to the Alzheimer's Association.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I think it's how like I think I have we've talked about this. I have a personal connection to Alzheimer's as well. That's why I'm wearing my Alzheimer's sweatshirt today. And I think the fact that you have this story, this like last thing that's such a beautiful, it's really beautiful that you still have like his words available.
It
And I
was a
think that you're
labor of
so
love. Yeah, I mean, it took, it takes a village. I mean, people stepped up. A designer, everything about that book was donated.
that's
People
amazing.
took their time to blurb it, to help me with. So I created the cover art,
Hmm.
but I had a designer friend make it suitable for at one point Ingram Spark, because we were on Kickstarter, but then for Amazon.
Hmm.
The woman who narrates my book, Rachel Fulgenetti,
Yeah,
she did the auditions for a male narrator. She produced the book. She got the files ready for me. I mean, like,
that's
it
amazing.
was really amazing, the support from the mystery thriller suspense community. Okay, like these are the best authors. We get our anger and craziness
Yeah,
down on
out on the
paper,
page.
right?
And it's
And so we
genuinely, everyone
totally
says this, but
genuinely
it's
love
for
them.
real, like for
It's
real, the nicest people.
Yeah, it's funny because you hear about some other
Yeah.
genres. We don't know from I read mystery, thriller, suspense. I also read a lot of literary fiction. Those seem to be my two favorite genres. Some people say, I'd love to write a romance novel, except for one problem. I've never read. I rarely don't read them. So
Yeah.
again, like, how can I intuitively write them? Right? I don't know the beats.
I'd
I
have
don't
to
know.
learn. That's
I don't read like rom coms and romance. So my advice to other to writers is read a lot in the genre you want to write. I mean, that
Mhm.
will, especially if you want to write intuitively,
Yeah.
get all of that information into your brain. Good brain health,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Good brain health. We love that. Eat your antioxidants and your blueberries.
Yeah. Yeah, and Lou's taught me so much about writing too. I mean, it was nice to have somebody there, along the way. Again, he was a great critique partner for the disappearance of Trudy Solomon. I began to say, even though he was helping me with the murder of Madison Garcia, the notes that he provided back to me were very thin, and not sort of the in-depth
Yeah.
notes that I would get from him. And again, I was like, okay, well, maybe he's busy. Maybe, like, I
Yeah.
never like said I was having difficulty with this. And you asked me this, Sabrina, when we met at Left Coast Crime, about how I utilize setting as character. I
Yeah.
was having really like deep conversations with Lou about that, because
Mhm.
it's fascinating to live with another writer, because you
Yeah.
get to discuss those sort of aspects of your writing. And going back to in the beginning, when you asked me about why I chose Susan as a character, and this setting spoke to me, is because this setting is a character. Uh,
Yeah.
if anybody knows anything about this region, it has this starting point.
Mhm.
It started as a respite for Jewish city dwellers who were trying to escape the city due to tuberculosis and just get fresher air. These were originally farms that were set up uh, by the Agricultural Society for Jews that had just come to New York and were more used to farming than city life.
Yeah.
But the farming was terrible up there. So they eventually opened these boarding houses. These boarding houses became these hotels and bungalows. And in
Mhm.
its heyday, you're looking at The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel and Dirty Dancing. So you have this upward climb. And
Yeah.
as Jewish families were assimilated, they begin to have more choices of
Mhm.
where they can go, and also doors were opening to them as to where they can go. Because I don't know if people know this, but Jews were not allowed in many, many, many locations and hotels
I
in
didn't know
New
that.
York, and anywhere in the country.
Wow. Okay.
Gentleman's agreement. If you ever see the movie
Awesome.
Gentleman's Agreement, that's the story right there.
Okay.
So but there comes this point in the 70s where Atlantic City, air conditioning, airlines, assimilation, and all of a sudden, Jewish families have other choices as to where to go. And at the same time, the hotels are becoming more dilapidated. The children of the owners are really not into owning the hotels. So all of a
Yeah.
sudden there's this sell-off. So now you see this steep decline in the area again. So here's this character arc, setting arc. And now you see it sort of on the upswing. So casinos came in, that kind of helped. And you're seeing sort of this more resurgence of this more artsy cultural
Hmm.
Catskills, Catskills for the Instagram age.
Yeah.
Yeah, so so I really thought about all of that as I thought about, that it wasn't just about this idea, this plot, this character, it was also about the setting.
Yeah, I think that that's fantastic. And I mean, and you were able to have those kind of conversations with Lou of like, this is like, what does this mean and how can it relate to the story? And I think that's like not just, living with a writer, but having writer friends and writing community is so important because it is like being able to dig in for things like that, which is very, unless you are in that writing, like you may not be thinking about what does that even mean? And I heard you tell this story at Left Coast Crime, and I was like, oh my God, like I've never thought about the setting arc and what that would mean. So, like, for
Because people
example,
use setting as atmosphere, which is
as
great.
atmosphere,
That,
mhm,
right? A lot. So
character. I've heard that, like, setting as a character. And I think that, like, but thinking about the arc of it, of the setting, helps to develop it as its own character. You know what I mean? Like, and I was kind of like, well, how do you? I mean, yeah, like maybe it's it's hot or it's cold, it's like whatever. But really, this history is such an amazing way to think about it.
yeah, I mean, there's so many places that have the history. I live now in Hull, Massachusetts. This place has an arc. This place, at the turn of the century and all the way into the 70s, almost similar to the Catskills. This was one of the few towns that allowed Jews to buy homes here. So there was a lot of Jews and Irish in this town of Hull,
Mm.
and there was a huge amusement park. So this was a huge summer attraction, like
Oh, okay.
Coney Island, that attracted the Kennedys, that attracted Judy Garland. That I mean, so there was this sort of like summer playland here, and then the amusement park got sold off to a developer, and you see this real downturn in this
Wow.
place. It is not like it's not like a cute Hamptons like
Yeah.
seaside village. This is a working class neighborhood. And
Yeah.
so and all of a sudden, you've got this ugly development going up where the amusement park was, and things are just kind of getting grungy around here. And then again, like the town folk and the new folk coming in say, you know what, let's turn this around. Let's get this town, maybe not back to its glory days, but let's create a new Hull. And I've
Mhm.
really seen that upswing since I've moved here. So yeah, every town
Yeah.
has a story,
And I
for
think it's
sure.
just like it's one of those things that I didn't really think about until hearing you say it like that. Like it's just an aha moment of like, of course, think about the history of the setting, particularly if you are using it as a character, as a driver, as a plot device, like whatever it is that you're using the character for, or using the setting for it. Like I think the deeper you think about it, the deeper it can become intertwined with the story, right? And um yeah, so I think that that completely makes sense.
Yeah,
um
for a novel that I don't have an agent for, so if anybody's interested, it's got two titles. I don't know which one I want to go with. One is Dirty Water, one is Riptide. They each have their
mm,
reasons why I've chosen
okay,
this. It's
okay.
set in Boston, and it's set again. It's a dual timeline, so again, I get to use the setting of the early '90s in Boston, which was a time of upheaval, especially racial upheaval, and again, it's a police procedural, so a lot of sort of the culture of the police at that time, if you're familiar with Boston, and the mob and the red light district, and sort of and the corruption really between city hall, or at least in some amount of incompetence too, but
Yeah.
also the racial strife. And then it's set in current time, so it's looking at a cold case, and really you get to see sort of how Boston changed over the years, how the police culture changed over the years, how the way that the city looks and feels have
Yeah.
changed. So I wanted to bring that in as well. So it's something I do think about when I pick my setting.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. With this new story that you're doing, even with the Susan Ford book, is this a Susan Ford book or is it new?
No, it
It's
is
totally new.
brand new. Yep.
So even with these, how did you do your research for the police procedural aspect of it? Did you talk to detectives? Did you just kind of like, I'm gonna use basically Law and Order as a starting point? Like,
No, I do talk to detectives, sometimes local here, but also there are resources for Boston, in Boston, to talking to detectives in their public affairs and also going to these conferences. So many of the conferences that I go to, especially the craft conferences,
yep,
um, do have law enforcement experts. And after they give their presentation, they are very generous with their time. They hand you a business card and they are more than happy to read your work, look at your work, tell you if you're at least there's authenticity there, if not with the actual procedure itself, but the way that the police are reacting to each
yeah.
other to things. So I do have law enforcement resources. In fact, for the Summer of Love and Death, I found an, a detective who worked as the peace force at Woodstock. And
Oh,
I met him through somebody that I met at BoucherCon. So I told
okay.
him Boucher, I'm looking for a police officer who was at Woodstock, and there was only like 200 of them. It wasn't
Mhm.
like I mean
Yeah, like it's not like it's a dime a dozen. Yeah.
and he knew someone, and that guy, Nick Chiarkis, got in touch with me. And he really helped me develop all of the scenes in at Woodstock because
Wow.
I needed to understand how local police and stadies and this New York Police Department, you know, police force,
Yeah.
uh, you work together to at least lend some authenticity, and also because I had to figure out how something was going to work in the
Right.
plot. I needed to
Yeah.
know how would I get Will Ford into the festival if the locals weren't allowed. They were all relegated to
Like
the
traffic,
the
right?
roads and the
Yeah.
traffic, right? So, but I needed Will to get, and how would that happen? Like, under what circumstance could I possibly get? I wanted to feel real. So anyway, so Nick gave me a lot of backgrounds and a lot of great ideas, and he's actually a little bit in one of the characters, and so yeah, that was fun to
Yeah.
find something like that. Yeah.
That sounds amazing. And again, going back to community, like it just comes back to
Yeah.
finding your writing community and even being like brave enough to say, this is what I'm looking for. I'm asking for help. Right.
Yeah.
And this community tends to find there's always someone who knows someone. It's like, it's pretty amazing. So again, like speaking about this, like the mystery thriller suspense community, let's talk a little bit about the mystery lit online auction that is starting in April.
So I am a volunteer with the New Hampshire, Massachusetts Alzheimer's Association. And our fundraising program is called Do What You Love to End Alzheimer's. And so the idea of it, this is individual fundraising.
Okay.
So depending on what you love is generally what you put a fundraiser around. So you've got a lot of pickleball tournaments, you've got walks, you've got rides, you've got physical fitness, you've got cornhole, you've got
Yeah.
swimming. Like there's a lot of it's very sports related. But what do I love? What does Lou love? We love crime fiction.
Yeah.
So, in thinking about sort of how we can raise money and also reach out to this community, which has been so wonderful to me, they understand what I've been going through for the last 4 years.
Hmm.
Um, I came up with this idea to do an auction. I mean, I've seen other, writing related auctions. And so I reached out to the community and I said, hey, here are some ideas, things that you can contribute to this auction. And they really stepped up. So, as of this recording, I don't have all of the information yet, but right now I'm at about 70 items,
Wow.
70 items or services by authors, agents, editors, book coaches, lots of really fun stuff for both writers and readers to bid on.
Yeah.
I probably will end up somewhere around 75 items. I'll be closing it out soon and then loading up the online auction platform. And I don't, it's because it's not live. I don't have a URL for you just yet. But if anybody comes to any of my social media pages, and I'm
Mhm.
on Instagram mostly, starting probably March 30th, I will open up the auction for browsing and then go live on April 1st. It'll run for 2 weeks and it culminates with a live event here in Boston, in Noir at the Bar. And again, nine fabulous authors and a host are joining me for the Noir at the Bar. They're doing the readings. I'm doing the everything. I'm doing the
Yeah.
crazy. I was like, "Why aren't you reading?" I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm
Yeah, I
in my."
have a million other things I need to do.
I know I have a wonderful host, Joanna Schaffhausen,
Okay.
and a wonderful lineup of authors. And so at that event, we'll do raffles. Lou will be there. I have hired a caregiver. He'll sit at the bar like Norm on Cheers. He'll sign his books. We'll have his movie playing on the screen.
Oh,
I
that's
will play.
amazing.
Everyone will read, and he'll get a kick out of it. He will. It'll be a late night for him, but again, there'll be a caregiver with him to tend to him so that I can run
You
around.
can
I
focus on
can
running the
focus
event.
so I can focus on other things. And yeah, so I'm really excited about this. So more information when it becomes available.
Absolutely. Well, I will say that we will have a link. When we have the link, it'll be in the show notes. We'll be posting about it on Slaying the Craft Instagram and on my Instagram at Sabrina Thatcher Author. As I've told you, Marcy, and I've said this, I think before on the show, I definitely have a personal connection when I lost my mom last year to early onset Alzheimer's, and so this is very close to my heart. And as a book coach, I will be definitely donating several services. So if you are like trying to write a book, come like check it out, like let's talk. Don't definitely go do this because you're going to be doing something good and hopefully you'll get something really beneficial out of it as well.
Well, Lou is
But
contributing as well, so he'll be contributing his book plus four short stories that are associated with the book. So what happened was when the editor cut all of these other little character
yeah.
vignettes, I scooped them up and I made them into short stories. So
Oh
it's
my gosh.
four short stories, a bookmark. I'll have my books up there as well. Yep.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. I wish I could go, but I will be there online auctioning and buying some things myself for sure. Um, okay, so just kind of changing gears a little bit. We're moving to the section I like to call pretend rapid fire.
Oh my
And
God.
um, so I just have questions that I ask all of our guests because as you mentioned this, but everybody you can ask the same author or you can ask different authors the same question and you'll get 100 different answers. So that's what I find so fascinating. So first of all, what is on your desk when you're writing?
What is on my desk? What am I? Oh my God. So I write at my kitchen counter
Okay.
because Lou used to work in our office and I can't, it's a beautiful office with a gorgeous view. I just can't bring myself to sit up there. So I
Yeah.
sit at the kitchen. So what am I? I'm surrounded by notebooks and honey and tea and just things in the kitchen.
Yeah. What ritual, if any, do you have before or after you write?
Oh, okay. So I get up in the morning, I do all the New York Times puzzles in order.
What?
Wordle, connections, strands. The beginning, I start the crossword puzzle. I do all four of those things. I compete with my family. So we all have the same starter word every day, a different
Uh-huh.
word every day. Then we compete to see who gets connections, starting with, who gets purple first. We compete on who gets the strand first. We compete on time on the crossword. So that's how I set up my morning and get my brain going.
Oh my
And
gosh. Also so much brain health right there. Like, oh my gosh, that's amazing.
my mom is 85. She does she's part of it. She's very healthy.
Yes. Okay, so you wake up. So that's the first thing you do is you do the puzzles. Ellie, that was not a knock at the door. She's over here grumping at the door. Um, okay, so yeah, I think that totally makes sense. And then do you just like come down and you have a cup of tea, or do you just get like right into
Coffee.
it?
Coffee.
Coffee.
And
Yeah.
then I get right into it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So if you are writing multi POV or multiple timeline, do you write straight through like a reader will read it, or do you write each section and interweave it together?
I read I write it in
Straight through.
right through. Right. No, like again, I think that again that's just intuitive. Oh, it's time to switch the POV. Oh, it's time to switch to a different timeline. Again, I will switch those back around. In fact, I don't chapter like at the top of a chapter, it just says XXX in
Hmm.
case I do want to change it around. I don't want to change every single then chapter
Yeah.
number, right?
Yeah.
So I do write straight through. I do not think about I really don't think about that. I really think it's again pretty intuitive.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. You kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier. We talked about this a little bit, but what's the most bullshit piece of advice you've heard?
Oh my God. That you must outline, that you must do
Yeah.
anything. The word must.
The
The
must. Like,
word
you're not a
must.
real writer if you don't, if you,
Right, right.
yeah.
Whenever I see that, I'm like, I must, like, what? Like, again, like, ask 100 writers the same question, you're going to get 100 different answers. Nobody must do anything. So
Hmm.
anything that starts with must,
Yeah.
generally, I'm like, okay.
Yes. Except for the best piece of advice, which is to sit your butt in the chair.
Right.
Right.
That's not process advice.
Yeah.
Well, that's discipline advice.
Yeah. Do you have any other, so the question is what's the best piece of advice you've heard? Do you have any other things that
Really,
you've
yeah, I
taken?
do. I truly do. And again, because it's Lou who gave it to me. So
Okay.
if you read my books, I have a lot of characters. So there's a lot of cameo appearances, a lot of people with really small parts. And Lou's advice to me, because when he was reading my novels at first, he said, um, every every small character, the reader should be able to picture as a protagonist in their own story. In
Hmm.
other words, every single character must be three-dimensional. Every character must have its own little character arc, even if it's for a paragraph. You must understand why that character is in there or why is that character in there.
Hmm.
So when I write those smaller characters, that is in the back of my head. Am I making them clear to the reader as to why they're there, who they are, especially if they just appear once or twice?
Hmm.
Give them their own vernacular, their own sort of distinct character in a way that makes them memorable. And
Right.
again, I love Lou's advice about, you know, can the reader see them as a protagonist in their own story, just from that little bit of information that you've given?
Yeah. That's super smart advice. So I'm going to be tactical again. When you're
Okay.
doing that, do you write the scene, the character, and then you're going back when you're doing revision and you're analyzing it and you're like, okay, at this point, or are you thinking about that as you are actually crafting the scene?
I'd say a little bit of both. I'm doing
Okay.
it as a craft. I think maybe I do it more now because I'm like, 6 books in.
Yeah. So you've got like, it's just more natural at
It's
that
a
point
little
of
bit
like
more
thinking about,
natural,
yeah.
but like I said the weakest part of my craft is interiority. So that's when I'm reading through just for that. When I'm doing a read through just to see if I'm tackling that well. That's generally where I add that, and I see that with the smaller characters. That's a great time to sort of develop them a little bit more if they feel flat on the page,
Okay.
and then even determine if they need to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I mean, I appreciate the patience with answering the tactical questions because I do think that for someone who's never been a writer, like you have a degree in American Lit, like you've got some sort of knowledge background, right? But there's like for somebody who is brand new, that's just like, I've always wanted to write a book and I love reading. There's a lot of things that we were just like, wait, what? When do we do this? Right. And so that's why I like always hone in on like
I have to
technically
say,
when.
My American Lit was more about like reading and critique and discussion. It wasn't. I don't remember doing a lot of writing. Maybe
Oh,
comparison. Maybe a few comparison essays and things. I don't. Where I did a lot of writing was in my political science. I was a dual major. I
yeah.
started in political science, but I took so many American Lit classes. That should have been a signal right there that I ended up double majoring. That was
Yeah.
not. It was not, I did not intend that. I I was a political science major with my focus was when people find this out, they're like, what? Middle East studies. and my
What?
focus was on women in Saudi Arabia.
Okay,
I
okay.
I know when I see people talking about the Middle East, I want to roll my eyes because I mean, you really have to understand the history to really I mean to there's just it's so complex, it's so nuanced that yes, I mean I don't even want to get into it, but
We won't get into all of the details, but
yes, it's
I
so
feel
it
like
is.
this is a very timely thing. It must be something that you're like,
I think about it all the time. I
I can
read it with
imagine.
a different lens because I majored in that particular in that subject. But that's what I did more writing in political science in my political science classes. And again, I wouldn't say creative writing, but just more writing than I did in my
Yeah,
American lit classes. But I did a lot of reading, and that's where I think again, my love for reading it just naturally gravitated towards taking American lit classes.
right, right. Um, I love that. So, what is the darkest idea you've ever had that has scared you about yourself?
Um, that's a good one. I don't. I'm not easily scared. I mean, I shouldn't say that. That's a. I am easily scared. Like, I can't watch horror movies. I watch horror movies like I do watch horror movies like this. I probably cannot read hardcore horror. I just I it would I just can't. Lou writes really dark books. I think Lou's books are dark. So
Okay.
I don't my books have dark themes, but I don't think they're dark. I write a lot of humor into my books that Lou doesn't do in his books.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know how dark I would get in a book in the book I'm writing now, which is it's a totally different book. It's called I'm not going to say what it's called because I'm playing around with that. I had to write a sex scene. I was
Yeah.
like,
You're
this is
really
this is
what's the
harder than writing a murder scene. Right? That's digging deep and making yourself very vulnerable.
Yeah, that's very uncomfortable. Give me murder all day.
Right. Again, and I didn't have to. I just said I had to write it sexy. No, I wanted to
You
write.
wanted to for
It
the story.
it really felt like it was important to the story.
Yeah.
These two characters. So yeah, like, and then I'm thinking, my mom reads early pages. Do I give this to my mother? Like, hmm. I'll give her the a murder scene, a pretty graphic murder scene. But am I going to give her these pages?
Yeah.
I don't
That's
know.
I mean, I think that romance writers like so good for you. The cojones these women have are just amazing. Um, okay, so how many drafts do you do before you share with anyone?
I share pages with my mom, so I that's no drafts. That's
Yeah.
as I go. What do you think? She can be she can be tough. So I don't need somebody saying, "Oh my, everything you write,
You're
I
so
love it."
great.
No,
Yeah.
I get some really good feedback. I have a couple of trusted friends and trusted writers that I do give pages to just to ask, am I on the right track? Type of thing. So there's just like two people, and then nobody sees it
Yeah.
until I've done a few drafts, until I feel like if they're going to critique it now, there's something to critique. So I'm not going to hand off. Usually I'm usually
Mhm.
three drafts before I hand it over to either beta readers or because beta readers are readers. They are not
Yes.
writers. They
They're
are
not
readers.
writers.
They're usually friends of friends, but they're
Mhm.
people that read in the genre.
Yep.
Then, because I want a reader's point of view, what's working for them, what's not, uh, and then I have a couple of writers that will critique it as well. And I take very different um, advice from them.
Right.
And yeah, so I mean, but I'm generally a number of drafts in. I don't want to give anybody anything too rough. I don't think that's helpful. I can do some self editing. I can edit, a few drafts before I hand it off.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I think that that makes sense, and also it just um the like early sharing of drafts or things like that can both be very motivating or very deflating
Yeah.
depending. Yeah. So you need to like get your story out, kind of play with it, massage it, make it what you think it should be,
Yeah, you don't
right?
need to like one or two, five people. Like what? Like it doesn't. I understand once you have it done, and you're stuck. You're like, I've made it the best I can be, but I'm too close to it, right?
Yeah,
So
and sometimes you
that's
know that, like, I can't see it. I know I can't see it.
when I was writing this Dirty Water Riptide, I'm sorry what to call it. It was when I was caring for Lou full time, and I I think I made a lot of missteps with it, or at least like it wasn't as good as it could be, and I was getting tired. I was tired of, just it's tiring. I mean, anybody who's been through it,
Exhausting.
it is exhausting. It is stressful. You are clenched 24/7.
Yep.
So I think it really took a toll on my writing. So when I finished it, I actually started querying it, and then I pulled it back because I got
Mhm.
some really good advice. And I was like, you know what? No. And I actually shelved it for a while. I knew I wanted to get back to it, but I was not in the headspace to write. And that's why I actually turned to writing another novel, something a little bit more fun. It's actually a satirical thriller.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
fun.
So I thought, really just get out of the headspace of police procedurals and I wanted to do an unhinged thriller. They tend to be sort of really popular right now. That's not why I chose to do it. I'm just saying
Yeah,
they
but
tend
they
to be
are pretty
popular.
popular.
But this was really fun. Like I needed something that was just crazy, to
Mhm.
sort of like take me out of reality for a while. So that's why I started writing the other one. And then I went back to Dirty Water and I took in all of the critiques and rewrote it and hope to get it back out there. Hope,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's the thing, it's just perseverance, right? I mean,
It really is. And that's good advice too. These if these two don't sell, I've got to, I got the next
just keep
idea.
going.
Just keep
Just keep
going.
going.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is your favorite part of the process?
Actually, it's the second draft. Like,
Mhm.
I love writing. I mean, I do love writing and figuring it out, but once it's done, I love to go back and sort it out. To
Mm.
I am in love with the second draft, or doing the second draft. I find that the
Okay.
most fun. Yeah.
Okay. That's really exciting. Okay, and what is your least favorite part of the process?
Uh, where I am right now with Dirty Water slash Riptide is trying to find an agent.
Yeah. Ugh.
It.
Querying. I should do an episode on querying and what that process is because I haven't really talked about it a lot on here, but man, if you're trying to go the trad route, it's a it's a process to get there. The work that it takes from the idea that we as writers have to the point that it's on the shelf, that is like
No,
the
yeah.
magnitude of the work that it takes, the hoops that have been you've jumped through, it's impossible. It feels impossible, but obviously it is possible, and it's just really hard and really like a lot of perseverance.
I mean, I feel like in the 2 years when I was really in the trenches with Lou, it took me out of the game a little bit. I
Yeah.
kind of lost motivation, and
Uh-huh.
and
I
I
mean, hey, I can honestly, I've just been there where I keep saying like, "Oh, I'm writing a book," and then I'm just like, "Maybe if I'll ever finish a second book, like I'll ever do it." But the truth is, there's all of that energy that's being put into other things that are important, and it does take you out of the process, and it kind of I will say for me personally, I feel like I'm just kind of starting to get back into like, okay, like I can move forward a little bit and the creativity, like the availability for creativity comes
the
back.
it wasn't so much even that I didn't have time. I didn't. I mean, from the minute
Yep.
Lou woke up, I
That's
was
full-time care.
right,
It's full-time
right,
care.
full-time care. But it also messed with my head.
Yep.
So, and it's not like writer's block. It's not like that at all. It's just you do not have the headspace for it.
Mm-mm.
And it was hard to get out of bed in the morning. There would be days where, I'd be like, I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to
Mhm.
deal with this. Now,
Nope.
I do want to tell people that Lou is now in memory care. He was no longer safe here. Like he was no
Yeah.
longer safe in this house. When it
And
gets to
that's such a hard decision to make, but it is the brave decision to make. And yeah, I'm glad you were able
Yeah,
to.
it's the same as like writing advice. No two people are going to experience
Nope.
this the same way.
No.
But I live in a three-story townhouse. My husband fell down the stairs. He loved to leave the house. He wanted to get in the car and drive. Um, he sat around and watched television because there's nothing really
What
else
could
that
they
he can
do?
do.
What can you
Stop
do?
talking. Right. So all of a sudden it becomes almost very scary here. And there are other things too I don't even want to get into,
Yeah.
about
Yes.
around hygiene. And
Yes.
um and so and again, we're lucky in this respect. I found a memory care that is right down the road. It is not
So
even
lucky.
8 minutes away. I go there every day for lunch. I read to him. And it's he's safe. He's social. He's got activities. He's a beautiful place to live. And I realize that, you know, this is not available to everybody.
Yep.
Um, but it is really it has saved both of us, quite
It
honestly.
really it does, and I definitely felt the same way when it was time to put my mom into memory care. It was just like it's just not safe. We can't be here alone. I was living in a different state. I can't be here all the time, and I did move in for a while, but it's the social aspect of it, and that care aspect cannot be stressed enough of the value that that adds to their lives, because otherwise it was the same thing. My mom was just sitting around watching TV all day because what else could she do?
Watching too.
You
I
like she
my house,
Yeah.
my house at the time, and I still have all of the motion detector lights here, but I have gates. We had gates
Yep.
everywhere,
Mhm.
blocking the kitchen, blocking the stairway down to the garage, on the staircases, in the second
Mhm.
floor. The bathroom had to be. I
Yep.
had crime tape. Ask anybody who's been. I had crime tape
Yep.
over the bathroom doors. There was a bathroom he couldn't use because he would hurt himself in there. So I
Yeah.
had tape all over that door. He'd still figure out, sort of like, kind of get his way in there. That's why you're clenched all the time. Where is he?
Yes.
What's
I
up?
mean,
Where,
it is
where
like
you going? Where you going?
yeah, it's
I'm
super
letting you go now. I wasn't
important.
letting you
Yeah, it's super important to know that a dementia patient is not a child.
in.
However,
Right.
the caregiver work that you have to do, the watching and the caring and the like making sure things, it is an adult child and an adult toddler. So they are not, and I'm going to be super clear that there is like a dignity aspect there that I always think that's important people remember. But for the caregiver work, it is like, okay, wait, hold on. Where are you going? What are you
There you
doing?
go.
Are you going to hurt yourself? Like, don't touch that stove.
I have to say, like, being a storyteller actually helps. So they're called therapeutic fiblets. In
Okay.
order to just get you through the day, you are making shit up
Yep.
all the time.
It's
And Lou,
redirect. Yep.
redirect. He would go, I want to go. He wants to get in the car. He gets in the car. He wants to drive. And I would say something like, wow, Lou, I am such an idiot. This is all my fault. I gave my set of keys to our neighbor so that he can make an emergency key for the front door. And it has the fob on it. We
Mhm.
can't go anywhere. That worked every day. Like, I can
Uh-huh.
use the same fiblet
Yes.
every single day because he didn't remember that I
Mhm.
had told him that the day before. But you're constantly thinking up these things. Like, when you want him to not watch the television, I would turn the TV off. You go, oh, what happened? I'd be like, the power went out.
Yep.
Like, it's not on him. It's not on me. It's just something that happened. He
Yep.
seemed to be able to handle that better than
Mhm.
to say something like, well, you can't drive. You don't have a license. You can't drive.
Yep.
You have dementia. He'd be like, I mean, that would anger him. He'd be like, he doesn't understand that. He doesn't understand
Like, what do
that.
you mean I can't? I'm an
What do you
adult. What do you
drive?
mean I
I have a
can't?
license. Yeah.
Yep. Had a license forever. Yeah, I think those are it is such an interesting it's an interesting dynamic because the instinct is you don't want to love to you don't want to lie to your loved one. But there is like fiblets are it's such a great way to say it because it is a redirection or it is a like let me like I'm just calming this situation because it doesn't matter what I have to do. It doesn't matter if you know the truth. It matters that you're safe.
I remember
And
someone said to me, "Oh, I can't lie to my husband." I was like, "Okay, yeah, good luck with that."
yeah, good luck because it's not mm-mm.
Because he
Nope,
doesn't. It's not even good for them. I mean,
it's
why?
not. No, like and I had a family member that passed, or an uncle that passed during the time, and it was really difficult to tell my mom. But at the same time, like when she talked about it later, I was just like, oh yeah, he's just out. Like,
Yeah, that's what you have to.
there's no point, why bring it up again and again and like re-hurt people. And yeah, it's crazy. And I just like, again, want to go back to your point you said earlier about it sometimes the symptoms don't show up as memory. People think it's always memory, and it's not. For my mom, it was stuttering and aphasia, and like, what are you
Aphasia.
talking? My mom had aphasia. By the time she passed, she was completely mute.
Yeah, my dad.
And
Yeah,
uh-huh,
my dad. My
yeah.
dad too. Yeah.
And it's hard because you don't always know how much they know and don't know, because they're kind of locked in. It's cruel. But I do think that it's the paying attention to those kind of things around the people that you love. And not just like old, this isn't just an old person's illness. My mom was 55, 56 when she was diagnosed. We started seeing symptoms in her early 50s. Like it happens. And so I think like just paying attention and being aware that it is, if something feels off, to just definitely pay attention to it, but that it's not necessarily, I mean, it could be anxiety, it could be something more. And that's such a hard thing. um but I do think the awareness of like, it's not just I lost my keys.
Right. It's not. It's
It's
definitely not. I can't find my keys.
mm-mm.
I mean, that didn't happen until later.
Yep. Yeah. It was
So
like, where you're just the person, there was a personality change. Like my mom was always really feisty and very like strong and opinionated and out loud and like not afraid of anything. Like woman was not afraid of anything. And then she started being afraid of things. And it was like, this
yeah,
is weird.
I mean,
So
Lou was always quiet. I mean, especially compared to me. But he became more reticent for sure. That's what other people noticed. Actually, it was the summer of 2021 before he was diagnosed, and his daughters noticed that he was reticent. And to me, it's just like, well, we're on vacation. We were doing a lot of family reunions because everybody was vaccinated, so everybody
yeah,
was back
you
on
could
the road
see
that
everybody
summer,
again.
summer 2021. I just figured we were in a big, noisy family reunion situation, and he wasn't really overly so. He's just not overly social. He kind of is more, introvert. So I
Yeah.
didn't notice it as much as they did. But then again, they didn't bring it up to me until we all sort of like were comparing notes.
Yep. Because it's something like I very distinctly remember the first time I was like, something's weird with mom. Like that was really weird. And all it was is that she just couldn't find words, and she would just be like, oh, that thing there, this thing
Yeah, he
there.
did that. He did
And
that,
it was
but
just so subtle, but I was like, something's weird. But I didn't even, it was years before I said something, because I was like, but I very distinctly remember thinking something's wrong.
yeah, he would call his wallet his phone or his phone his wallet. That was
Mhm.
early days. And in the fall of 2021, he kept asking me where we were going for Thanksgiving. And
Yeah.
I was like, for the millionth time,
I've already
when
told you.
I
Yeah.
told you you're not listening, or that's what I was thinking he was. I thought he had a hearing issue,
Yeah.
or a not listening
Yeah.
issue. It
Selective hearing issue.
wasn't until the spring of 2022 when all of that stuff started piling on. Like it was one crazy thing after another where it became very clear there was something going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that, and that's going back to the auction. Like, I think that doing the fundraising for the Alzheimer's Association, I know I've done fundraising before. It's where I got like my amazing sweatshirt from the Walk to and Alzheimer's. They have them all over the country. So you can go and you can walk and support, you can fundraise and do individual fundraising. You can do fundraising like Marcy's doing with like this, with the auction, or individual fundraising. There's so many different ways to do it. And I will just say, for me, the Alzheimer's Association was such a great, um,
Research.
outlet. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was a great, like they have support groups, and they had, what was amazing for me, they had adult children of people with Alzheimer's that are long distance. So it was a long distance caregiver as an adult, and it was very interesting. So there's to be that, even that niche. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
I consider myself now a caregiver advocate. So I'm not with Lou 24/7.
Yep.
I have to constantly advocate for his care,
Oh my
get
God.
involved
Yep.
in all the medical. I mean, it's still a lot, but have given myself breathing room, which is what he wanted. I mean, early days we did discuss sort of
Yep.
what he wanted, not just for himself, but for me.
Hmm.
I think it's really important too. This is the hardest part. It's one thing to have a discussion with your husband. I think it's a little bit easier. I think it is really hard to have those discussions with your parents, especially as adults. So, I mean, one piece of advice that I give to people is when everything is fine, when everything is great, sit down and have those hard discussions about
Yep.
finances,
Yes.
medical care. Where do they keep their passwords? You know, what happens if this? What? Just like a writer,
Yep.
what if? Get all of that stuff down while they can still tell you. So if you're in your 20s and your parents are in your 50s, great time for conversation.
It
Your
sounds
adults are
weird.
like,
It sounds like,
"Yeah,
why would I
but
be
since
talking
you're
about?
too young," right? Why are we talking about this?
But do it now. Do it the sooner you can, the better, because
I
it's gonna
talked to my
matter later, and
Yeah,
they can't make a decision.
I have this all on paper. What I want this to look like if this should happen to me.
Yep.
Um, and so, and it's not like wishy-washy either. It is, and again, I think when you're around Alzheimer's and dementias all the time, you know what it looks like.
Yep.
You are very determined to make sure that the people around you are equipped to deal with it. And the
Yes.
only way to do that is to have really brutally honest conversations with your parents.
Yep. It's hard. It is hard, and especially, I mean, I know, like, I will say, so my grandma was living alone and was more there than my mom was, right? At some point, and I could see the struggles that some of my aunts were having with some of the conversations that needed to have with my grandma because they didn't have them earlier, and I just, like, I cannot say enough, like, fortunately, my mom had been talking about retirement and the plan and all of these things for so long, but by the time that we got to the diagnosis, I was still able to have some, like, reasonable conversation. But yeah, it's so important. I cannot agree with you more. I cannot say it strong enough. I tell my friends all the time, talk to your parents. Just have the conversation. It sucks and it's weird, but, like, yeah, if you get Alzheimer's, what do you want to have happen? If you get, cancer and you can no longer make a decision for yourself, what do you want to have happen? What's your will look like? Again, your passwords. Where are your passwords at? Who has
Passwords.
the account?
You
Do I need to be on
tell
your account, like, as a side person?
tell us where your passwords are
Yes.
because you're really going to want us to have it if anything happens.
Power
Might
of
go
attorney,
below.
durable power of
Yeah.
attorney, healthcare power of attorney, all of that stuff. Like, just it feels weird, but do it because, oh my God, it makes your life so much easier versus doing it after the diagnosis where you're like, oh my, what am I doing?
And
I
you're
had to get an
limited.
attorney, like, all kinds of
Once you get
stuff.
the diagnosis, you start getting more limited in what they are allowed to decide to do for
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so yeah, you want to when everybody's well.
When
Uh,
everyone's well, have the conversation. And yeah,
Roast
cannot
it is.
stress enough. Um, okay, last question.
Okay.
What is your favorite old school mystery or thriller?
My favorite mystery novel is Agatha Christie's The Murder of Roger Ackroyd.
Okay.
I think that stands as test of time as to sort of the ultimate twist, the ultimate setup. I love all the Hercule Poirot novels
Yeah.
from Agatha Christie, but that one sticks with me. And I also
Okay.
love Crime and Punishment, Dostoevsky. Like
Yeah.
I'm going to go into classic. I read that as an American lit major because we actually read a lot of Russian literature sort of as a foundation
Mhm.
for what we were reading. So that's one of my favorite sort of I would say classic
Yeah.
crime novels. But anything Agatha Christie. I think, even just saying Gone Girl, I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's really, uh, I really think that's a pretty brilliant thriller.
Yeah. It
And
is.
so
I think it's going to be one of those tests that stands the test of time books. Like, like the
find a flaw
and
in
then there
it.
was none, and then Murder of Roger Ackroyd. Like, it's going to be one of those
Yeah,
books, and there's a reason.
it's hard to find a flaw
Yeah.
in that flaw, right? The writing is fabulous, and it's hard to find a flaw. So I mean,
Yeah.
that, that one also hits my list as of all
Yeah.
time.
So, Marcy, thank you so much for joining me today. Where can people find you?
So I'm mainly on Instagram, so Instagram threads, right? But I like Instagram. I guess even though I write, I love I love the sort of the visual side of
Mhm.
Instagram. I'm on Facebook, only because it's tied to Instagram.
Yeah.
I'm on TikTok once in a while.
Mhm.
I don't love it, but I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm on, I guess I'm on Blue Sky, sort of, but not really.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm definitely not on X anymore. That is
No, no, we're not on that.
I didn't deactivate my account, but you'll see that I don't think I've posted there in over
Yeah.
a year.
And they can
Um,
find you on Instagram. Is it at Marcy McCreary
author.
author? That's what I thought.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Fantastic. And then listeners, if you want, you can find me on Instagram at Sabrina Thatcher author. And if you want any information about my book coaching services, you can visit crimeandquill.com or and I just want to do another plug. Don't forget to check out the auction that is supporting Fundraiser the Mystery Lit online auction that will be a fundraiser for the Alzheimer's Association. So make sure you check that out. Until next time, friends, stay sharp and write twisted.